Welcome to Relentless Truth with John Warren, the podcast that extracts truth from a wide range of topics, revealing who God is, who we are, and how we relate to each other. Now, here's John with this week's powerful and practical insights.
Welcome to Relentless Truth. I'm John Warren. It is good to be with you again. Please like, share, and review and subscribe to Relentless Truth. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Please go to our website, John Warren Media. For more information about our work, you can send along a comment on our contact form. I answer those. And you can also send an email to john@johnwarrenmedia.com. I answer all of those emails and welcome your correspondence. You are an encouragement to us here at Relentless Truth. Today, I would like to talk about the state of the economy, the state of our nation, the election. I know many of you are discouraged, and it is natural to be discouraged right now. I would assume in this country. I have friends who are very smart, accomplished people who do very well in the work that they do. Many of you are here listening to this podcast, and I talk a lot to all of my friends who are smart and know what they're doing and follow these things about the state of our country and the state of the economy. And there's some themes that I want to talk about today. And then next week, we will be kicking off our series in Colossians, which I am also excited about. But today, I just want to look at the presidential election. It is discouraging. And then I want to pivot to the economy and some tangential issues that I think might be worth talking about, maybe some healthy perspective on these things. We have been here before as a country, and I know I talk a lot on the podcast where I'm not going through scripture or a biblical topic. I talk a lot about some of these issues. But this year, this election year, this 2024 year, and the second Tuesday in November of this year, we will be electing a new president. And as I record this, and this will reach all the podcast outlets about 5 weeks from now. But as I record this, Donald Trump is in a Manhattan courtroom. The Stormy Daniels trial is ongoing. There is the Atlanta trial, the Fani Willis trial, that is pending at some point, and all of the noise around that one, just all the noise around it. The intrigue outside of the courtroom is kind of fascinating on that one, and then there are a couple of others that are pending, and as I look at all of that, and I have a view that is nuanced on that. I think Donald Trump's behavior has been shameful in the past and might be shameful in the future as if he's elected president. I don't think we should discount what Bill Barr said about his time in office with Donald Trump, and I think there are plenty of others who have given us a real clear-eyed look at who Donald Trump is and how he executed the office of the President of the United States. Having said all of that, I look at our current president and the deep state, the whatever non-triggering way you'd like me to reference that, I'm happy to reference it. The bureaucrats, the deep state, the federal employees who actually run the government, whatever you want me to say there, the Democratic machine. You plug your words in here. Don't let me say deep state and have you turn the podcast off. Stay with me. But these people who are not elected, who are making decisions about this country, or the political types in the Democratic Party that are massaging the story for the fawning press, whoever it is, all of those people are going to run this country right into the ground. And I don't like sounding like this far right freak, because I'm not so far right on some issues. But I have to be candid and tell you that when I saw this morning the number of Chinese citizens, for example, who have made their way into this country illegally across our southern border, that's right, Chinese people crossing our southern border who have flown from China to some airport somewhere and then to Tijuana, Mexico, and have paid a coyote, a drug dealer, runner, or whatever they are, call them personal security agent or whatever you will, to bring them across the border. Now, think about the problems with this. First of all, Chinese government has to be involved. You don't just leave China, and if you do, you won't get to go back. And these people have already demonstrated they're able to go back. They're obviously here for some purpose, and so they have the blessing of the Chinese government. They're able to get money out of China to pay the coyotes and pay for their travel and all the rest. That wouldn't happen without the consent of the Chinese government. No, it would not happen. And I'm just talking about one country right now. I'm not talking about all the others. There are plenty of others to be concerned about. The Middle East countries that are not our friends could have cells that are organizing here. But before we go into conspiracy theory world, let's just stick with facts. And thousands of Chinese citizens have made their way into our country illegally. Period. That is known. That is a fact. That is not something that we will dispute. We don't need to. Look, if you haven't heard this, you've been doing your thing and working and raising kids and going to church and doing whatever your hobbies are, and you just haven't kept up. Go just Google it and go to a reliable news source that you like, Wall Street Journal or New York Times even, or whoever, and look it up. And look at the thousands of Chinese citizens who've come into the United States during the Joe Biden presidency illegally. Now, I'm tired of hearing the administration talk about how if Congress would just do something. It's funny to me how political Washington is. And I know it's supposed to be. And I understand that politics inherently is not intrinsically rather evil. But when you look at how political this issue has become, and you look at the fact that the president can do executive orders on most anything he wants to do. He can lobby Congress for legislation. He hasn't done that on this issue. He hasn't done any executive orders. He's not even enforcing the laws that are on the book. I mean, I just wish the Democrats and the bureaucrats and the deep state, all those people we talked about earlier, I wish they would just stop with the nonsense about how the president's hands are tied. No, they aren't. Do something, Mr. President. You have the ability. Our country is in trouble because of this issue. It doesn't look like we're in trouble. I realize there's no sense of urgency. I realize I probably sound a little crazy to some of you. Little like I'm reacting when I maybe I shouldn't, reacting instead of responding. But no, I'm responding. I've thought it through. It's a problem. Look at the data. That does not happen by accident. I heard today about a group of illegal immigrants. That's what they are. Not Chinese people, but from south of here, a number of countries, who've come up through Mexico, made their way into the United States, into a major city, and they have a list of demands. They're being thrown out of some kind of tent compound they've made and moved to a hotel or some other form of public housing. And they have a list of demands. And among those are promise not to throw us out for X amount of time. Promise to have a process for vetting us if you decide to return us to our country. In other words, they want the government to sign a stipulation agreement with them. Attorneys, you know what that is, stipulating to certain things, as if they have leverage or rights in this country. Now they have basic human rights. I understand that. We need not deprive them of food or shelter or some things while we process them. But they're subject to due process, aren't they? And didn't they break the law coming in? And shouldn't we use some process to decide who stays and who goes? And shouldn't most of them go for coming in illegally in the first place? That's a rhetorical question. Yes. But instead, we're spreading them out. We're sending them to cities all over the country. This is not a Texas, Arizona, California problem anymore. It's a 50-state problem. Well, 49 maybe. State problem. It's a huge problem. It is a lying in wait disaster of some kind. Now, I'm not suggesting that there's going to be some war where all of a sudden there's a battle cry that goes out and they all have guns and they try to take over our country or take us over. No, but they've come in illegally. The Chinese citizens who've come in are not here for vacation. They're communicating with China. We need to wake up and I know it's politically incorrect to talk like this. I understand that with diversity, equity, and inclusion and all the nonsense that comes with ESG and ESG scores and all the rest, I understand that this won't be well received by some. That's fine. Take me off your friend list or unfriend me or whatever you do, because I'm going to tell you the truth. You don't have to listen to this podcast. Go listen to one that doesn't tell you the truth. And it pains me to say that, but the truth is, this is problematic. This is I don't know what they're up to. Are they all spies? Are they reporting back to China on U.S. fashion? I doubt it. Are they looking for business advantage? Possibly. They want to steal trade secrets? Sure, probably. They do it all the time from a cyber standpoint. They wanted to beef up the Chinese cyber reach into America? Probably. I don't think they're here to visit the Grand Canyon and marvel at its beauty. So I believe they're here for some purpose that is nefarious. I think that shouldn't we assume that? If shouldn't our government assume that? I think so. It goes back to kind of what do you see the purpose of government being and protecting us at home and abroad, protecting our basic rights, defining and protecting those basic rights they've been defined historically, notwithstanding the fact that lots of young people in colleges right now would love to just rip all those documents up. I hear them loud and clearly. My goodness, suggesting that that we are Hamas. My goodness, where in the world does that come? You have no idea, snowflake, what Hamas would do to you if they got their hands on you. This "we are Hamas" nonsense. I am so thankful for a precious few professors and administrators who will stand. I am so thankful that the University of Florida, the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, and the University of Florida said, no, you're not going to do that here. But that's not happening other places. And so we have all of this radicalized nonsense going on. And it makes talk like I'm doing, real talk about our immigration problem seem cold and harsh. I get that. It sounds like it's not the Christian thing to do. Well, I believe the Christian thing to do is to tell the truth. I believe the gospel has a sharp edge to it. I believe when you start talking about depravity and God's wrath, that's off-putting and offensive to some. And so I think I'm placed on this earth and left on this earth for however long I am to be here, to tell you the truth. And that's what I intend to do, as God willing, as long as I'm able. And so I'm telling you the truth about immigration and this whole college uprising. It's not emblematic of who we are as a country. It's emblematic of the fringe. If you look at a bell curve and you look at the right tail of the bell curve, the people who are just kind of out there, depending on what the metrics are that you're tracking, you do a standard normal distribution, and you look at, most people are in the fat part of the bell curve. Well, these people are in the tail of the curve. They're not mainstream. They're not the people who are going to get the good jobs and be prominent and make lots of money and be successful. This is the fringe that has just lost their minds. Young people, if you're in one of those environments and you stand for truth, I'll stand with you, and lots of people will stand with you. Companies will hire you. You don't have to worry about being unpopular writ large. Maybe in your micro environment, it's a challenge right now. I heard about Jewish students who can't get to class. I heard about bullying. I heard about people getting physical with them, blocking them from going to class, trying to get an education, an expensive one in lots of cases. And that is just shameful. We have that fringe group, that tail of the bell curve, has lost their minds. They are destroying things like George Washington's monument on the campus of George Washington University, defacing him, and spray painting things all over the place as if they own them. If you go back, where I started with this rabbit trail, was if you go back to the purpose of government, the intent of government, and you go back to core values like property ownership. You look at things like the Third Amendment, the one that we don't talk about much, and you can't quarter troops, and you look at the other property ownership related amendments, the search and seizure amendments, the Fourth and Fifth, and you look at others that give us property values. Our framers, our founders knew that these issues were important and were going to be important. So we have property rights. The property owners have property rights, and these young people are violating them. We have a constitution that contemplates citizenship. It doesn't do so artfully. I understand that the 3/5 compromise for slavery is offensive to everyone. It certainly is offensive. But I will say that the Congress at least contemplated what the rights of a U.S. citizen would be. They anticipated things like migration from one state to another. They anticipated things like states having squabbles and prescribed that those disputes would go to the Supreme Court. They anticipated things like people wanting to have a legal action that takes place in one state, and they prescribed what happens in cases where they go from one state to another. They anticipated things like interstate commerce, and they preclude states from and prohibit states from taxing each other with tariffs as goods cross state lines. Can you imagine? And that's just the beginning. Can you imagine if those things I just named weren't true, weren't in our founding documents? What a wonderful country we have. However, it all blows up if our government isn't willing, if we have a culture in D.C. that is not willing to enforce the law, if we have a police force that isn't willing to enforce the law. I happen to think it's a disgrace that police officers have to go fight hand-to-hand combat with these punks in the tail of the bell curve who've taken this land that isn't theirs and defaced it on college campuses. It is a shame to take sworn officers who've trained, who risk their lives, and have them have to have a cage fight with these people in the tail of the bell curve who are malcontents, who most of them don't even know why they're there. In fact, some huge percentage of them aren't even college students. They're agitators. Somebody's paying for them to be there. I mean, they all should go to prison for a long time. Property rights are property rights, and they ought to be enforced. I don't care what the cause is. I'm sick of hearing that, oh, well, we stand with Palestine. Well, good for you. I stand with Palestine too, the good people in Palestine who aren't terrorists. However, they got a little problem. They allowed terrorism. Their government, their whatever you call that thing they have, it's not really government, but their organization, their territory leaders allowed Hamas to thrive. And you can't do that. There are consequences associated with that. So I stand boldly with Israel. I stand for the humans in Palestine who are trapped. That's great. But I stand with Israel. Israel has to eliminate Hamas. They can do it as humanely as possible, but Hamas hides behind civilians. That's the problem. Let's don't lose sight of that. That is the problem. So anyway, back to these protesters and the illegal immigrants issue. There's just a decline, and cities don't have to do exactly what DC does, but our president, the administration, let's say it that way, they set a tone, and the tone they're setting is tone deaf. They are not setting the proper tone. They are setting a tone that says that we allow anarchy, that we don't punish crime, that we put you back on the street the same day we arrest you for something relatively serious, something that 10 years ago would have meant a lengthy prison term. So here we are. We have a major problem in our country with illegal immigration. We have, I won't call it anarchy, but the tail of the bell curve is misbehaving for sure. And now we're faced with an election. And really, we don't have a good choice. We don't have a good candidate. I so badly want to support RFK Jr., but he's too progressively liberal for my taste and yours probably. And then I look at Donald Trump and I think, wow, I know it was COVID, but how chaotic was it? He was constantly being impeached. He botched the COVID response. He said crazy things on a regular basis. He tweeted all kinds of nonsense. Directionally, his party is one I believe in or try to. Directionally, I agree with him on some things. He's a nominal Christian. If he is a Christian, he used Christianity a couple of times, a Bible as a prop one time. I don't like that. And so I struggle to support him. And then I look at Joe Biden and for all the aforementioned reasons can absolutely not support him. But I'm obligated to vote. I'm going to vote. I hope and pray and would ask you to pray that another candidate surfaces. And I don't know how it plays out. I don't know who he's going to choose, Donald Trump is going to choose as his running mate. But I could see a scenario where he names Ron DeSantis as his running mate, and then former President Trump gets arrested, gets found guilty, either in the current trial in New York or in Atlanta or in DC, and is actually unable to serve or even run. I don't know how that works legally. Attorneys, you could probably advise us on that, but I hope for a scenario, not where he goes to prison, but I hope for a scenario that allows the Republican Party to nominate somebody else. I don't see it happening, but that is my hope. Or perhaps the Democrats acknowledge that Joe Biden is unable to serve. I don't know whether he is or isn't. I hear things about his cognitive ability on both sides. I hear he's fine. and just has a stuttering issue and has peripheral neuropathy and isn't actually falling because of his age, but because of his peripheral neuropathy. I don't know the truth, but I just love it if one or both of the parties nominated somebody else other than these two candidates. I realize I'm whining at this point. I don't think that solution will play out. So Christians, we should pray, and we should not just say we're going to pray. We should actually pray in this regard that God will move and we will have some other candidate who at least stands for good, healthy values. I worry about intrusion into the faith. I believe diversity, equity, and inclusion and ESG will eventually start to erode Christian freedom. And when I say eventually, my friends like Matt Staver and at Liberty Counsel and others are probably saying, eventually, you got to be kidding me. That's happening now. Well, it has happened in lots of cases, but I'm talking on a widespread systemic basis. I worry about our ability to practice Christianity. When I watch Jewish students get just absolutely persecuted at college campuses, I think, wow, how far are we away from Christians just being ostracized in our society? Again, I think this is the tail of the bell curve. I think good people are stepping up in various places. I've seen some flags flying at Columbia University, thankfully. I've seen other examples of good people pushing back. But I do worry about the state of liberty, all liberties in this precious country that I am so thankful for and so proud of. We have got to stop illegal immigration. We've got to have candidates run who are principled and truly conservative, and we don't have that today. Well, I want to shift gears just for a moment on the economy. The economy is crashing. You're not hearing this, and I don't like using words like crashing. Maybe that's too strong for your taste. Let's say adjusting downward, then, if you prefer it. This economy, there are thousands of company store closures that are happening as we speak. You might be aware of Darden and Red Lobster and their threatened contemplated bankruptcy. You might be aware of other companies that are closing stores. Store closures are from companies whose names you would know are in the thousands. Again, you can go to a credible news source like the Wall Street Journal and see all sorts of articles on this. This isn't some alt-right fringe conspiracy notion. This is actually happening. Well, you have to ask yourself, why is that happening? Is the world going to all online ordering? No, nothing's really changed there. I mean, yes, Amazon does some good things for us. I ordered something on Amazon, fairly nuanced today, and it's going to arrive tomorrow, and that's really cool. I prefer to shop with local vendors if I can and do, but this was kind of a nuanced item. It was a medical item, actually, for my wife, and it was something that is going to be here tomorrow. A wonderful thing. So I would just suggest that these store closures are related to companies looking down the road and doing an assessment. They don't close the good stores that are profitable because they're all about a profit. They have to make a profit. They have to have cash flow, positive cash flow, to continue to exist. In fact, their company's worth is the net present value of their future cash flow. So good CEOs everywhere and board members are contemplating these things and are looking down the road and realizing that the economy is tightening and it's going to continue to tighten. Now, in this political season, they'll blame it on all kinds of things. You're seeing the stock market continue to rock and roll, and you're saying, well, wait a minute, John, what on earth are you talking about? The economy's doing just great. Look at the Dow. Look at the S&P. Look at the NASDAQ. Well, I would push back on that and say, not so fast. Go study the stock market during the roaring 1920s and then watch them fall right off the cliff in 1929. The data's out there. You can find it for yourself. Very similar to the situation that we're in today. I wouldn't get too comfortable based on that. I would look for asset protection now, quickly. I'm not predicting some doomsday scenario that's as bad as 1929. I'm not in the business of doing economic predictions, but I would brace for impact if I were you. There are a number of reasons for that, and primarily high interest rates. Now, you might see the Fed moderate interest rates because the Fed has become politicized. They might moderate rates a little bit. But if you look at the rates that they don't control, long-term rates, I think you're about to see them take off. And they're going to take off for a number of reasons. Remember supply, demand, and price equilibrium. You're going to see demand for money change over the next 6 months. You're going to see interest rates, long-term interest rates, spike as a result. And so I would just brace for impact. If I'm wrong, you'll miss out on some yield. If I'm right, you'll be thankful that you sought cover, that you sought protection. Now, I'm not giving you personal financial advice. I'm not licensed to do that. I'm just suggesting that you look at the data for yourself and be smart about the looming economic recession that I believe we've already dipped our toes into. If you just look at your local environment, look for closed stores, look for economic activity and it's slowing. Look at consumer credit, look at consumer debt, look at wages, look at jobs, job data. Watch those indicators going forward. I think you're going to begin to see a slowing. Look at housing, the housing market, and how sales are beginning to slow. There are really two big asset categories that are worth watching. One is housing, the other is the stock market. And the stock market is having a good old time right now, but I don't believe that good old time is sustainable, and I believe the correction will come quickly when it starts. This political season is camouflaging, I think, some of the real issues that our country is facing. I hope, my summary is that I hope we elect politicians who have the courage to deal with the border and export quickly all who've come here illegally in the last few years. I think we need to do something different with the dreamers. I think we need to be gracious with people who've been raised here, but not these people who've come across our border systematically through this industry that people called coyotes have prospered under, making thousands of dollars for every person who comes across, risking life and limb and paying thousands of dollars, being trafficked in many cases. We're getting to the point where we stand for nothing as a country when we start to embrace these kinds of things. So my hope and prayer is for good quality leadership. Christians, we need to stand. We need to not wilt. We need to hold to biblical values. That's an entirely additional conversation for another day. The church is a huge part of the problem. The church has abandoned its the biblical view of gender and marriage and complementarianism. That is the proper role of genders in church leadership, and it goes on and on. Biblical truth has been discounted, has been watered down, and even muted by those who say, well, we're in a different culture. This is a different time. That doesn't work for us. We polled our people, and they don't like hearing about sin or the wrath of God or the gospel. They like hearing about hearts and rainbow issues, that how to better their lives financially, how to live in community and explore harmony among different people groups, and on it goes. So I hope that this rambling, whiny episode has been helpful to you. I will leave you with this thought. God's grace is sufficient. God has provided salvation to us. And dear Christian, cling to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Practice what Paul said He said he's not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And he also recognized that it is the gospel that sustains us. And we are to preach the gospel to ourselves every day. We are to grow in God's grace because of the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you're listening and you've listened to Relentless Truth to the first time and you say, I don't understand these concepts, I don't know what you're talking about, I hope you will send a note to me via either the website, johnwarrenmedia.com, or my email address, john@johnwarrenmedia.com. I would be glad to share with you the hope that lies within me because of the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for listening. I am optimistic about all of these things, as negative as they are, as much as I want to be prepared. I am optimistic because God is on the throne. His grace is sufficient. He is unchanging. He is immutable. He hasn't changed over eternity past, and he will not change through eternity future. And that is our great hope. So we can rest in that while being prepared and engaged and involved in the meantime here with our government and this economy. So thank you for listening. I hope you'll like, share, review, and subscribe to Relentless Truth. Please share. You can go to my website, johnwarrenmedia.com, and simply copy and paste into social media, share our posts, share our episodes. Our episode page can be copied and posted on your social media account. I hope you'll do so. I hope this ministry is a blessing to you. And I certainly look forward to being with you next time, where we're going to start our study of Colossians. Until then.
Thanks for listening to Relentless Truth with John Warren. Please consider sharing this podcast and subscribe to receive future episodes. Connect with John regarding your comments, questions, and show ideas through johnwarrenmedia.com or at John Warren Media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. That's all for this episode. Join us next week for another edition of Relentless Truth with John Warren.